Hi, I'm Dan Giza, and today I'm going to be talking about video games, more specifically how violent video games are actually more beneficial than harmful for your mental health. Now, many people believe violent video games are harmful by being very addictive, antisocial, and creating aggressive and violent behavior in the game. I'm going to talk about three things that are going to oppose this misconception, and it's about how games affect you socially, emotionally, and mentally with the way your brain works. So to begin with, violent video games actually promote pro-social behavior. Now, there's a big stereotype that games are antisocial and leave the player isolated for long periods of time. But according to the article, The Benefits of Playing Video Games, published by the American Psychological Association, over 70% of gamers play their games with a friend, either cooperatively or competitively. Now, violent games that are played cooperatively have shown to encourage helpful behavior online and offline. It teaches gamers how to work as a team, how to lead a team, and also how to face adversity. Now, video games today have never been more socially interactive. Increasingly, players are gaming online with friends, families, strangers, people all across the world. And in a way, gamers are much more social than non-gamers because they socialize with people around the globe on a consistent basis. Now, one more study from the University of Oxford by experimental psychologist Andrew K. Problisky found that less than an hour of gaming a day was associated with pro-social behavior and higher life satisfaction compared to kids who didn't play. Now, next I'm going to talk about how games affect you emotionally. And games can actually help people control their emotions better, not enhance their aggressive tendencies. When gamers are met with failure in violent games, many can assume that they get very aggressive when they lose. They throw the controller, they start cussing. Well, this may be true at first, but video games actually help with the way people view failure. Players respond to failure with excitement, interest, and joy, which is a very positive way to react to losing. They keep trying after they lose. And this is how video games are cultivating a persistent, optimistic, motivational style in players, which encourages them to continue challenging themselves instead of giving up. Some of the most intense positive emotional experiences are triggered in a context of playing video games, which is a quote from the American Psychological Association article. Now, lastly, I'm going to be talking about how games affect you mentally, and violent video games actually helps make your brain stronger. Daphne Raviller, a brain scientist who leads the cognitive neuroscience lab at the University of Geneva, says, "They are all the games where you have to chase the zombies, kill the bad guys, war games, things of that nature." So she's saying that the games that are most violent are the ones that are actually the most helpful to make your brain stronger. It helps with cognitive skills such as visual attention, concentration, navigation, multitasking, and task switching, also hand-eye coordination. And Dr. Adam Gazelli, a neuroscientist who runs a cognitive neuroscience lab at the University of California in San Francisco, found that playing non-commercial racing games improved cognitive control and multitasking of 65 to 80-year-olds, and that the training extended beyond the game to positively influence sustained attention and working memory. So, in conclusion, video games promote pro-social behavior, positive emotional benefits, and brain training tools. All these are examples of how violent video games are more beneficial than harmful for your mental health. And I'm going to end it with a quote, "Video games hold immense potential to teach new forms of thought and behavior." Thank you.
All right, Daniel, the propositions clearly identified. The contents are previewed, but basically with just a single word, and I think you need more declarative statements in the preview. So I thought that that was a little bit of a problem there. However, when you got to the body of the speech, usually the secondary points were full of declarative statements, and you then explained kind of the inference that you're making on each of those points. So I think a little more clarity at the beginning, but in the body of the speech, you did a good job clarifying those points, and that's also pretty important. There's good background explanation on most of those points. Sometimes it sounds like you've got quoted material that is not being cited, and then you cite some of the material that's going on there. So you want to be consistent. If there's something that you're citing and it comes from an authority, you ought to be upfront about that and make sure that we're getting the credibility from that source and that you are being accurate and representing the information. Most of the time that had to do with the inferences that you're drawing, and I think those inferences are largely supported by the quotes that you offer, but sometimes they're phrased in such a way that makes it sound like that's really another part of the quote, not just your explanation of what's going on there. Like I said, everything was organized pretty well, good background information in the explanations. For the most part, your material is cited pretty effectively. You had a couple of examples. I'm not sure that the racing game that you mentioned at the end fits the criteria that you set up at the beginning. Is that, in fact, a violent video game? I do think you need a few more examples of the teamwork kind of thing that you're talking about. When you mentioned, for instance, that there's a lot of communication that takes place when people are doing these games, and actually gamers are communicating with people around the world, I'm not sure that there's any explanation about what the characteristics of that communication are. Because if all you're really, where are you? There you are. Right. If all you're really doing is posting smart ass comments about in your face or die you gravy sucking zombie or whatever it happens to be. Although that is communication, I'm not exactly sure that it's enhancing anything. And so if there's information about this, if there's some kind of research or illustration or an authority who's talking about it, that would add to what you're talking about, and I think you need a little bit more of that. But like I said, for the most part, you did a good job citing sources, although on a couple of spots there was a limited amount of information on those points. But what information there was pretty good. So I thought you did a reasonable job making generalizations. It's a little bit short, which is one of the reasons why I think you could probably put in some more of that information and be a little more convincing. All right, thank you.